Hello,
Okay.
everyone. How's it going?
Hello.
This is What's Going On, a weekly live show that discusses news that affect you, the creator. And it's going to be every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are your hosts, Grace and Jack. And because today is Earth Day, today we're going to be talking about what's going on with NFTs and the environment. And by the end of the show, we will try to answer the question, can you own an NFT and be an environmentalist? Disclaimer, we're not experts on the topic, but we hope to learn and discuss with you guys. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you always can keep up with our new show. Grace, what's going on?
Hello. I'm reveling in the fact that it's Earth Day today. I'm a fan. I'm wearing earth tone clothes in celebration. Probably gonna go on a hike later and just be in the environment. So I'm excited. Yeah. How about you, Jack?
Yeah, I love the earth. I'm also wearing some green.
Nice.
I'm hoping that the earth will be able to withstand all the energy consumption from NFTs, and we'll see about that today. But happy Earth Day to everyone who lives on Earth. Shout out to you. So
love it.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about NFTs today. I feel like NFTs are something that has been talked about a lot over the past couple of years. At first, people were like, there was kind of a craze over NFTs and like, what are they? And things were selling for thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then came the controversy, right, of later figuring out that they might not be so good for the environment. So we've all heard of NFTs, but let's start off with what is an NFT. So let's get into it. So you've probably seen some of these NFTs. Grace, have you ever seen any of these?
Yeah. I think the Beeple's work is really interesting. I personally don't have a ton of experience actually selling or buying or listing NFTs, but I've definitely seen these, like the CryptoPunks, pretty iconic. Bored Ape, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you say they're iconic, given that like they're like only like I think Bored Ape is less than a year old. Like, it's pretty crazy. Things are moving so fast in this space. But yeah, these are NFTs, non-fungible token. Grace, do you have any idea what that means?
I didn't until a year ago, probably. But I think generally, I would say like the basis of an NFT is that it's unique and you can't exchange it for another one. Like the fact that it's unique and non like exchangeable is pretty key to the definition from what I know.
Right. Yeah, it's uncopyable. So, people like to say you can right click and save the images of NFTs, and that's your NFT. But the whole point is that, yeah, you can you can save it, but you can't sell it. So yeah, NFTs, these are some of the most iconic NFTs. You've seen Bored Apes. The cheapest one right now is like just under 400 grand. Just a picture.
Just under 400 grand.
Just under, yeah, just like a maybe a house in some places. But what really makes the NFT an NFT is actually not the art at all. It's actually the code. So yeah, whenever you like I said, you can download a picture of an NFT and like it's the art, you'll have it on your computer, but it's not really the original NFT, and that's what the code really matters for, and it's all verifiable on the blockchain. So that's what an NFT is. I feel like that's the basics. But why would you want an NFT? Like, I feel like that's another interesting thing that that's the next question people usually have. Grace, have you ever had an NFT? Have you ever wanted an NFT? What's that like?
I have never owned an NFT, I will say. I think a big part of it, from what I've observed, is it's kind of like art trading, or like collectibles. You want it because it's unique and it has value for being unique, or like a piece of a collection. In the same way that you would want maybe like a Pokemon trading card or like a real piece of art. It's just digital this time. I think another thing with the NFTs now is like there's a huge push for them to be communities it's a lot of times you're not just like purchasing an NFT and you just own it and yay. It's like you're part of this community. There's like a Discord or a Slack or some sort of group that you're all united by. And they even like host events or like exclusive stuff for the people in that club kind of. So I think it's becoming a lot more of like a social like icon thing for your identity.
Yeah.
But I think there's also part of it that's just like wanting to own a piece of art and really say that like you own that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think NFTs are really interesting. Agreed. I think most people are in it for trading and for the money aspect. Like you see on this slide right here, you know, Bored Ape is just under 400 grand and there's 10,000 of them. So like real people have these things and they bought them when they were like less than $200. Like they were sold at less than 200. Yeah, that's the really interesting thing is I think most people are in it for the money. Obviously it's really risky, but I think that's what most people are in it for. Have you guys ever owned an NFT? I want to see in the chat if you guys have ever owned an NFT or if you currently trade or what you think of them. We want to hear from you guys. But yeah, I think it's just sort of like an uncharted territory right now of like art meets tech. And I think that like brings people in.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like
I was gonna say also, I think there's like this feeling of not wanting to be left behind. Like it's like the new big thing. And like also there are so many stories of people making a ton of money from trading NFTs that it's hard to be like, I don't want to have anything to do with this if there's like this huge payout potential in your mind too.
Right. Yeah, the intersection of art and technology, says someone in the comments. I think that's exactly right. And that's kind of like thrilling and stimulating. I think, you know, we're just sort of beginning this new frontier of like digital art and what that looks like in a digital age as we like head into the metaverse, maybe. So this is just the beginning. But obviously there's the drawback. And I think we all know the drawback is energy consumption. So if you didn't know, there are a lot of environmental concerns. So NFTs, most of them, the most popular ones, all of the ones that I just showed on the previous slide are all on Ethereum. Ethereum is a proof of work blockchain, which means that pretty much it takes a lot of energy. And yeah, it takes up the Ethereum platform overall takes over 113 terawatt hours of energy per year, which is, you can see on this graph, a lot. And actually that's as much energy about as the Netherlands uses, the country, in 1 year. That's
wild.
Yeah, it's really wild.
I feel like I had heard before we kind of like read some stuff to like go live for this, I had heard that there's like a lot of energy consumption, or like NFTs have a lot of environmental concerns. Like I think a lot of people hear those things, but until you look at the data and are like, whoa, I mean, you could question like how accurate the data is. I think there's like some concerns with how to actually measure the impact of some of these NFTs, but it's like wild that they estimate that these NFTs can consume the amount of countries. Like that's a whole nother scale.
Well, that's a little bit of a misconception, I think, is that, you know, NFTs specifically are causing this much energy. Obviously they are, but this is the entire Ethereum blockchain, which is also a lot of like banking and decentralized finance and other stuff. I think NFTs only actually contribute around 2% to the overall Ethereum transaction costs, energy-wise. So it's not like as much, but it's still a lot. And every transaction that you do takes up a lot of energy.
Right. So even just buying one time or selling one time, that's like one transaction, right? And that consumes like part of it. Yeah. That's
right. And on Earth Day, we can't be having that. And that's the whole thing. Also, you probably heard about Bitcoin as well, about how bad that is for the environment. It's worse than Ethereum. And that's because it's also on a proof of work system, which is how they create new Bitcoins, is by having supercomputers run a bunch of math problems nonstop. And it's just sort of using these super heavy duty computers that are putting out a lot of energy or using a lot of energy. However, there are some positives, of course, with NFTs. We've talked about the intersection of art and technology. We've talked about artists make a lot of money. It's a whole new revenue source for artists and creators. After you sell an NFT as an artist, if it sells again and again and again, artists will continue to make a portion of that revenue. So it's not like they just sell it once and never see money ever again, which is really nice. There's also some studies that have shown that a significant portion of Ethereum is the energy comes from renewables. So that's something as well. But of course, there's a lot of controversy. But I think it is more complicated than just like, let's go all in on NFTs or let's not, right? And I think that's because of this. Grace, do you know anything about proof of work versus proof of stake blockchains? Kind of complicated.
Yeah, I was trying to learn more about it. It seems like from my basic understanding that proof of work is generally more secure because they're basically doing like complex, the algorithm is doing complex math problems to some degree. And like the more people that buy into the blockchain or like have a stake in the blockchain, it will become more complex. So it's intended to use more energy because it's like more secure and harder to like mess that up. Versus proof of stake, you like have to prove that you have a stake in the blockchain.
That's right.
I'm not as certain about that one.
No, that's right. Yeah, for proof of work, it's it's more decentralized, and that's why it takes up more energy. With proof of stake, it's a bunch of different devices all over the world that are verifying who has what in their account and transactions and stuff, but they're not uncovering new Ethereum or new crypto. They're just verifying what already exists. And so that's like way less energy intensive. And the good news is that Ethereum, which is currently proof of work, is going to switch to proof of stake. They're currently working on that, and that'll reduce the energy consumption by over 99%, which would be so great, obviously, especially on Earth Day. Wouldn't it be great if they mic dropped that it was happening today?
Oh my gosh. That would be awesome. But I feel like I've also read that they have said that for years, and they're still like, so I think people have become skeptical over time of like, all right, y'all, it's been a few years now. What's the deal?
That's right. It's been delayed time and time again. And that's the complicated part, is that, you want to root for these companies who are like admitting to their faults, but it's not there yet. And so is it really ethical to use it in the current system? You have to be the judge of that. What's really interesting, though, is that there are other proof of stake blockchains. Grace, do you know other blockchains other than like Bitcoin and Ethereum? Are you familiar?
I don't really know them. I've seen a chart. I've seen this chart, but Cardano. Yeah, I know Cardano a little bit, but I haven't really heard of the other ones.
Yeah, well, a lot of these use way less energy. You can see that this scale is logarithmic. It's not linear. So it's insanely different, actually. There are other blockchains like Tezos and Polkadot and Avalanche, which are much more like green and even sort of brand themselves as the green blockchain. For instance, you can see Tezos, which is near the left of the chart there, uses only about as much energy as around 13 US households per year. So for a system that like is bringing together millions and millions of different accounts and transactions, that's not too bad. But when you compare that with Ethereum, which is using about the same energy as 1.6 million houses per year, that's crazy. And it's crazy please, what?
I was gonna just say, I feel like this chart really reminds me, since we're thinking also about the environmental aspect, it reminds me of how like meat consumption is like a huge contributor to like resource use and carbon footprint and stuff in the world. But it's also like a spectrum, right? Like beef is considered like so much more water intensive and energy intensive than like chicken or other types of meat. So yeah, I think this is like a good demonstrator of like that it's not just all like one huge thing necessarily.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's really interesting how different these can be in terms of energy consumption, and it's kind of, I think, unfortunate that most of the NFT trading that goes on, that's sort of like legitimate, and sort of like where you make money, or where most of the new collections are coming out, and where you're seeing like high volume of trades, is on Ethereum, when like you could as easily put this on Tezos or Avalanche or Solana or whatever, these other blockchains which are much more green, but it's just not happening for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just not as adopted yet. So I'd be interested to see if we'll move over to some of these other blockchains in the future for NFT usage, if Ethereum ends up never switching to be, 99% more energy efficient.
I guess one question I've wondered is like, why are NFTs mostly using Ethereum? Is there like some reason for that, or is there like a technical reason for that, or is it because it's just like one of the most popular cryptocurrencies?
I think it's because it's the most popular. I think after Bitcoin, it's the most respected. It's the second highest in market cap. The total valuation of Ethereum is quite high. It's pretty old. Like most of these newer ones that you see on the screen are newer than Ethereum, have come out years later. So I think most people they already had Ethereum maybe, and they bought it at a low price. So they already have a bunch to spend and buy things on Ethereum.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think new people who aren't, and who are just getting into NFTs too, will see that Ethereum already has higher volume, and more trades are going on, and so that just also attracts people as well. But I do think it's kind of unfortunate when like these other ones are right here, way more energy efficient.
Right. But I can see how, like, because cryptocurrency, blockchain, like NFTs, they're all pretty not so new, like not in the last year, but I think for most people, they've never really discussed or heard of these things before. And so when they are trying to like partake in the world of NFTs and crypto, they're like, want to make sure it's super secure, super vetted. And it just happens to be these cryptocurrencies that have had more history and like are more energy intensive because they are more secure to some degree.
That's right. I think that's exactly it.
So
now
maybe over time, I feel like it could become like, as these other ones are more respected, and like these kinds of issues about environmental, like the impacts of these other, of like Ethereum and Bitcoin are discussed. Like I think more people could switch over to that.
Totally. I completely agree. I think now we are armed with the information to maybe try and answer the question. Grace, do you think that you can trade, own, sell NFTs and be an environmentalist?
I think you can. Okay, I think it's very dependent on, like, in any question, it's always dependent on like the definitions of things, right? Or like what you're considering in the context. So I think you can be an NFT owner and call yourself an environmentalist, but I think there are a lot of qualifications to that. So it depends, like, owning one single NFT or doing one single transaction is very different from like 500 transactions, or like getting super into the world of it and just wanting to like buy and sell all the time. I think it's also dependent on, like, what, as we talked about, like which blockchain is being used. Ethereum and Bitcoin, as we've seen, are like way more energy intensive than these other ones. And yeah, you can buy NFTs that are on like Cardano or Solana, and that's like very different. There's also this conversation of like, you can offset your carbon usage. And I know some people really don't like that, because they're like, well, you can't just set the house on fire and like put a potted plant outside. Like that's not, you should just not set the house on fire, right? But I think that's still like a valid thing. Like, and I think it's in general, like when we look at the environmental impact of our lives, like as a human, you're going to be consuming resources, and you like putting carbon into the world because we eat food and we buy things. And I almost feel like you should look at the overall impact of your choices. And I think it's hard to estimate for a single person. Like, I'm not sitting here like calculating my carbon usage, you know, every day or something.
Right.
But like, what if someone is a vegan artist, they're not eating meat or animal products, which are a huge environmental burden. They're not eating any of those things, but they like buy and sell NFTs because that's how they make their livelihood as an artist, right?
Right.
Like, how does that compare
Right.
to someone who's eating meat multiple times a week or a month? I don't know.
Right.
I think there's just like a lot of nuance to these questions, but ultimately I feel like you can be an NFT owner and environmentalist. It just depends on like these contextual questions.
Right.
What
Yeah.
about
What do you
Drew?
guys think? I want to hear in the comments. I think you can, sort of as you were saying, I think you can right now if you're using these other
Right.
blockchains. I think if you're using a proof of stake blockchain, you can. I agree. Yeah, you can offset also your footprint. It's not perfect. I think it's ideal if you're going to do it. And I think
Yeah.
you, or I hope, and I think and I hope that you will be able to trade NFTs and consider yourself an environmentalist on Ethereum soon. If and when they do make the switch from proof of work to proof of stake, it'll become so much more efficient. And
Yeah.
I'm really hopeful that that will actually happen, and happen soon, because I don't think it's unreasonable to hope and want for like a bridge between new tech and new art and this movement
Right.
that's also sustainable. I don't think that's too much to ask
Right.
for. And
I think like you have to be part of it and like know about these things and like engage in them to make them better, right? Like, I found there's a quote from I think from a Wired article that someone said rejection of technology is a rejection of humanity. And so we have to have a holistic approach that like considers all these things, including the technology. Because I think like over time technology will develop, and like we can have a say in how they run and how they, like, artists are, some of them are at the forefront of like trying to make these things more sustainable, right? Like, I don't think it's necessarily going to help to just say like to condemn them and not try to engage at all and then get mad at people that are, you know, it's like you have to be part of the conversation as opposed to like oppositional and like being enemies. And like we're all trying to work towards the same thing, I think. So
right.
yeah, just another perspective.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think it's a part of our culture right now. It's at least, you know, positive to be thinking about these things, to learn about them. And yeah, I think everyone, like you said, can make their own decisions. And hopefully we will be soon in a world where we can do this without feeling bad.
Right.
Cool.
Still probably a long way to go, but I think changes are happening, and like as individuals we can be part of those changes. Like, we have a lot of voice in these things.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there are initiatives happening too, and that are trying to make these, you know, all of crypto renewable, like based on renewable energy and things like that. So I hope that will be true and is not just you know, PR. But yes,
Yeah.
I think this wraps up our convo. I think this was a good convo.
Yeah.
Can you own an NFT and be an environmentalist? I think it's your decision. I think it's your choice to decide that for yourself. Grace,
Yeah, true.
it's been real.
Jack, yes, this has been good. I've learned a lot in just trying to like learn about these things. So I've appreciated the opportunity.
Yeah, I hope you guys have learned a lot too. We will be here next week on Friday at 10 a.m. PST. Let us know in the comments what you want us to talk about next. We want to talk about things that affect you, the creator, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Bye.